So we're gonna, start everything off with the metrics so everyone can follow along with how well things are progressing through the year. And then a couple things that popped up that would love to get like some of the community feedback on. One is this proposal from Nicole Shanahan, where her foundation's putting up about $3.5 million for a scientist to generate reviews, just kind of review papers on particular topics. It's a little controversial of a topic, but I think from the Research Hub standpoint, we can be as objective as possible and just go dig into the literature and present what we can. The other one would be just kind of in general, AI seems to be really taking hold everywhere. And so we're already working on some things, but kind of like a wish list on what AI features, you've always been kind of craving for, or something especially that would improve kind of like the quality of your life or like the convenience as a scientist would be a big, one we'd like to hear from you guys. The other one I really want to touch on is governance. So this is a really important aspect of the Research Hub platform. And I think one of the big reasons why we want to even have a token, so there's obviously the kind of like the financial value of the token, but then there's the governance that comes along with it. And I think we're uniquely doing something unique in the governance side of things there. So I'd want to talk about that. And then finally, Pat is going to go ahead and share a brand new Research Hub web app that's being developed. So this is like a brand new UI UX with a couple extra features that didn't exist before. And I'm really excited for you guys to see it. And I'm sure Pat will be excited to share it. So let me go ahead and get Pat up here. Yo, Pat, you there?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. So I'll kick us off right now. So we'll start with some of these. Where are we at? We'll start with some of the metric highlights, and then we'll kind of go through some of the points, and then we'll finish it off with like a big presentation of the new web app. So here are some of the updates for the year. So our peer review numbers again are trending upward. So we're averaging right now at about 170 peer reviews a week. And that's like a pretty consistent number. We've been there pretty much for all of 2025. So this is effectively like our all-time high in terms of peer reviews per week. And we're kind of consistently hitting that week over week. So really excited to see how that evolves. We are continuing to scale our editor program. So we'll actually be able to have enough editors to be able to increase that number without adding a tremendous amount of burden per editor. So we're very excited about that as that's one of our, big North Star metrics. And all of our social metrics have been also increasing year over year too. And maybe what I'll do next for the next one here is to show week over week what that improvement looks like versus from the beginning of the year. So you can see how it changes from the previous week before it. But effectively, all these numbers are trending upward. So extremely exciting stuff. Okay, so I can't see my screen. So if there's any questions, feel free to like throw them into the chat here. Otherwise, we can move on to some of the other ones here. So this has been kind of a discussion point internally with some of like the people, the editors and some people at the foundation and the Inc. team. Nicole Shanahan posted a tweet saying, hey, her foundation's going to be allocating about $3.5 million in grants for researchers to essentially publish a series of review papers. And, on admittedly quite a controversial topic, which is around at its core, the essence of like the role of like vaccines and inflammation that's generated from that, and it's like co-occurrence with ASD, which is autism spectrum disorder. So there's a couple works that have been presented here. And so Research Hub, we at least internally, a lot of people have talked, and we really want to get involved in this because we think we're the right venue to be able to say, hey, we're going to look at these things objectively. We want to be an open platform that just talks about the science. And so, whatever the results of this may be, even if people have preconceived notions of what that is, we should go at this objectively and kind of, put our name in the hat for like a group of people that's going to work on this. So, yeah, I think one thing that'd be really exciting to hear about is like, I guess maybe generally people's thoughts and perceptions on us approaching this kind of work and then also in what the best manner or fashion would be to reflect, I guess, some of the outputs of some of the studies that you could look at. So you can say, hey, these are all meaningless, they're all correlation studies. Hey, there's, one causative study and it's inconclusive because of X, Y, and Z. There's a lot of ways to like really mix and match it. So love to hear the community's kind of insight on this. Yeah, Malik, let me get you up here. Yeah, Malik, please go for it. I know we had a
Yeah.
chat and I know you're pretty passionate here.
Hey everyone. Thanks Jeff for giving a preface about this. So Few things, I wanted to mention about this proposal that the sponsor has given to do the reviews for literature of possible links, about vaccines and, any autism spectrum disorder. So at Research Hub, one thing, as editor in chief, I want to make sure is that no matter what we do, we should maintain scientific integrity, regardless of the biases and opinions of the sponsor. The limitation from what this link that is provided by the sponsor, Nicole Shanahan, is these are all like cherry picked papers of only everything that supports her bias and or hypothesis. I have a running document that is actually shared, and I can share it here too, as to and I would be upfront about it that because the amount of literature that's out there, I have used AI technology to help sort through the literature. So if we just use this list and then try to summarize the findings, then of course it's going to be more biased towards the hypothesis. But there is a plethora of much better literature out there that negates this hypothesis. And by better, what do I mean? Like meta-analysis, larger studies in, in vivo models and so forth. And in addition, there is a large amount of literature out there pointing to other causes of, autism spectrum disorders. And that were also like not in this list. So as scientists, we should look at the evidence from all aspects rather than just what we want to find. And, and if that's what the community agrees with, then we can go ahead and provide this review regardless of the funding or not. But I just wanted to put that out there that if we do this study, then, we cannot just do only the list that's provided.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this goes back to like a funding, not a funding feature, a feature that was on Research Hub called the hypothesis feature that was like allowed users to essentially like collate all the pros and cons or like the, reject or approve of like a hypothesis. Pat, you got your hand up. Do you want to go for it?
Yeah, so this is like an awesome opportunity, I think, because this is like a very hot button topic that I think like does well on the internet generally, gets people very tribal on either side. So I think we can definitely take advantage of that. Like a couple thoughts that I have here is like, Malik, what you're describing to me sounds like a systematic review. Like, should we just share a pre-registration for a systematic review to look at this question? So that way we can be like as unbiased as possible about it. And then I'm even thinking like $3.5 million is so much money to write a review paper. Like maybe we should just do this. If we like put together a pre-registration for a systematic review, like we could probably fund that for like $50,000. It's not like that much effort. So yeah, I kind of think we should just do this with a pre-registered systematic review and then maybe invite Nicole to fund it, and if she doesn't, who cares? Like we can just come out with a paper that, you know, has a non-biased look at this question that is kind of like politically, a hot button one. So I think we should totally do it and pre-register it and have it be a systematic review.
Yeah, totally agreed, Pat. Like if we even do it as a pre-registration, then it will be like, everything fair and open. And that way, there won't be any biases afterwards. And, as long as we mention in the pre-registration that we're going to look at all the literature, not just one supporting the hypothesis. And as you said, it's a huge amount for doing just an overall review. So if she doesn't come and fund it, then we can do it on our own efforts and still give a non-biased like scientific evidence on the topic.
It's such an interesting like mechanism where if we do a pre-registration, like if you want to argue about biases, you can do so kind of at the outset. So yeah, I wonder like what's the next steps to getting like a really good pre-registration for systematic review put out there? And then we should publish it and then hit up Nicole and be like, hey, you want to share feedback on this? Like we're going to do this study, let us know if you wanted to structure it differently, like throw your opinion out there and maybe we will. But yeah, what's the next steps to like, do we have to recruit a scientist who wants to write this review paper and get them to submit a pre-registration? Yeah, curious what you guys think.
I think Malik, we've got like quite like the brain energy that's passionate about this internally with the editor team. I think there's already been like 4 or 5 people who have said, "Hey, I'm happy to pounce on this." Do you think that's enough, Malik?
Yes, yes, yes. So we have, two neuroscience editors, Dr. Ruslan Rust and Dr. Emilio Mehrab. So they are already aware about this and they have agreed to lead the effort on this. And then, Jeff here is also, an expert in neuroscience. So internally, we have a good team to start with. And then if we need to recruit somebody else from the peer review community, I think we should be able to. And that would give us like 4 to 5, strong team that can just do the pre-registration within a week.
I love it. This is such a good idea. This is even going to be something that'll bring a lot of attention to our journal if we publish it in the journal. So yeah, this is such a good idea. Thanks for snagging this, whoever found this.
Yeah, it was a team effort and a lot of people noticed this on the Twitter and, started working on it immediately. So thanks everyone.
Yeah, also when Javier put his hand up. So Javier, I know you had some lengthy commentary too in the Slack. So yeah, you want to go for it? Maybe we can verbalize it and have a little more of a conversation.
Hey guys, yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think when I saw this, I was just thinking about the opportunity to try to mix science and business. And what I mean by this is just kind of like Pat said, $3.5 million is a lot of money. And so one of the things that I think it would be great if we could like present this to her from a kind of a structured, a kind of like a framework, like in terms of like we're going to offer this opportunity for scientists to do this and offering X amount of money. And so like the pre-registration thing, I think it's great, but I think we could have a ResearchHub could have like influence in terms of like the providing the guidelines of what the pre-registrations would be. And so, for example, if she presented in her tweet, right, it was like 5, 6 different illnesses, right? And so if we can structure kind of like the questions that we're trying to answer with these kind of review papers or hypotheses, etc., then that's where the scientists can come in, with their individual expertise and then provide, whatever knowledge they have, whatever they find during the literature review. But then this would have a cost that we're sort of passing on to her. And then we can try to like scale it up, right? And so what I was mentioning was like, let's just say 10 papers, because she's saying like papers, right? Published papers. And so let's say 10 papers would come out of this. And if we make the calculations for the cost of these papers, right? And then the amount of money we're trying to offer the scientists. And so if she really has a lot of money, like 3.5 million is a lot of money. Like I was just making some estimations of like $5,000 that, we could offer scientists, and then we could have the costs of publication on the ResearchHub journal as well. And so that sort of napkin calculation that I made was just 100,000 for the whole process for 10 papers. And I think this is a kind of a reasonable price for the whole 3.5 million. It's like a very small amount of money. And then it would still allow for the science to be discussed. So whatever authors published, it's still going to be judged by peer reviewers. So it's not going to be like we're just lending the platform for, pushing whatever agenda anyone might have. But it's more like this is the opportunity for scientists to share their findings, get a good amount of money, given that she's offering a good amount of money, and still be judged very rigorously by peer reviewers. And all the content would still remain like open. Anyone can read it. Anyone, can see what's the latest finding. And so I think it also helps grow the scientific community, and it also helps giving trust in the community about using research or supporting ResearchHub. Sorry about it. Long conversation.
Yeah, no, I think it's, we can, I guess, split it into multiple, but I almost feel like one all-encompassing one might be the best approach here. And also beyond that, my gut feeling is that there's probably not almost any causal studies that would like reflect the hypothesis. A lot of people talk about co-occurrences or kind of correlations. So I think one thing that could be cool if we're going to go down the pre-registration route then is to maybe make it a two-parter, which is, hey, here's a pre-registration to like put the systematic review out. Then, contingent upon the results of that review, we're going to design a second pre-registration to actually run like a causal study in vivo, maybe with like a mouse model or something like that. And that will be something I think that warrants more of the funding. Like writing a peer review or a systematic review is kind of like marginal costs, but running a full study is quite
Right.
a large cost. So
Can I
I,
get a spot? Yes. My name's Kim, by the way.
Edwin, I'm going to
Sorry,
mute.
guys.
Yeah. So in my opinion, me either doing it as a two-parter pre-registration where we can actually get a full-fledged study showing a causal relationship or lack thereof, I think would be like an appropriate way and would probably warrant most of the funds there.
I love it, Jeff. That makes so much sense. It's like, let's get like next step is pre-registration for systematic review. We invite her to comment on it, maybe fund it. We get that out there. We use that information to then design a pre-registration for a study. We say, hey, do you want to fund it? If you don't, we probably will. It's such a good idea. This is awesome.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of like funds as of the next governance proposal that can be used to even like put towards funding that. So I think we've got something over here. Yeah, Edwin, I know you have your hand up, and then we'll go Malik.
Yeah, sorry, guys. I'm not sure about this, but is there like a big difference between us doing it without her affiliation and with her affiliation in terms of like, the internet feedback or whatever? Because not that we can do anything differently, but it might be worth considering how we can optimize her participation. Because I think if she's involved, we get more clicks or, more attention to this, which is good for us.
So I might not be living in the real world, but I think if we put together a very good pre-registration for this and send her a message that's like, hey, what do you think? We're going to do this no matter what. I think she'll probably be pretty excited about it. And we can build a relationship from there. But we can have the first message demonstrate like lots of value, being like, we're going to do this. We're experts. Check out this pre-registration. Would you do anything differently? And I think that's a very compelling like intro message.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that sounds pretty good. That's probably what you would do if you're trying to pick up a girl. So makes sense.
Here's a pre-registration. For me in the past, I guess.
Let me know how all that works for you guys. Yeah, Malik, you want to go next, and then Javier.
One like kind of a nuanced point, like, like I like the idea that, if the meta-analysis like that we are all doing will show some data that may lead to experiments, but at the same time, we should also be open that if the evidence does not suggest anything so far from the studies, not sure what more we can show in the in vivo studies or like in any other way of showing causation. Yes, if the evidence shows, then there might be some hypotheses that come up that, oh yeah, let's test this. But if it doesn't, then we won't have any such further work. That's what I think and I foresee, but I'm open to suggestions on that too.
And Malik, that's why in the first pre-registration where we outlined the peer review or the systematic review, we can say, if the results come out this way, we will not proceed with like a secondary experiment. If results from the systematic review play out this way, then we will. And it's all pre-registered, so it's like we can't really go back on our word.
Perfect. Yeah, love it. Thanks.
Yep. Yeah, Javier and then Edwin.
Yeah, very, very briefly, a question for Pat. What type of feedback are we wanting to get from her in terms of like after putting the pre-registration? Because I feel like even from the point of view of like structure, she might not be able to provide a lot of feedback, granted that she's not a scientist. And I don't know, I feel like if we ask her to approve of what we're trying to put together from a scientific point of view, I feel like it might feel tainted in terms of like accommodating to what sort of she wants. And so I'm just trying to think of it from the point of, scientific rigorosity and trying to kind of remain faithful to the scientific method.
Yeah, I don't think we would change anything based on her feedback, but just say, hey, here's a study that we want to conduct. Here's how we're thinking about it. We're pre-registering it. We're seeking community peer review. Like, share your feedback. We'll probably do a V2 of the pre-registration based on like, what the authors think is best, taking into account feedback. So yeah, I don't think she would have any influence. It's just more so like we're experts doing this thing. You want to share your opinion on what we're doing and then maybe put some money to it. But yeah, just like how we've done pre-registrations in the past, basically.
Awesome.
Yeah, Edwin, I know you had your hand up. Do you want to go for it? Then we'll move on to the next points.
No, it was a mistake. Go on.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Okay, cool. So I guess maybe to wrap this up in the last couple minutes here, next steps wise, Malik, I know we have a lot of energy like internally with the editor team. So I think everyone was talking about maybe getting together after the editor call today and then establishing a game plan for getting this pre-registration live. Does that sound like the right next step?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks.
Okay, great. So moving on So the next one would be, and we don't have to dwell on this one too much, which is like kind of like your AI wish list. So we have Dami on our team who's been developing a lot of kind of different features involving AI and AI agents. We had a couple people. One of them had Pat had directed me to was Eric, who had made some mention of different use cases that AI agents might be able to be useful in, which is like helping kind of like format and structure your preprint to get, put up into another journal, or like going in and like, kind of appending some of the metadata in a way that like makes it cleaner or well annotated or something like that. So it kind of brings the question where if these AI agents can do all these things, directing them towards the thing most people want, I think would be really useful. So does anyone have anything that they're like particularly passionate about where they said, man, if only an AI agent can do this for me, my workload would decrease, it would be really convenient or anything like that? Like I know for me particular, maybe to start it is like really when you're writing a manuscript and just having to break up your like writing flow to go find like citations or papers that like a claim that is true because you've been in the field so long, having to go and like find and hunt those down. You find a review paper, but you can't cite the review paper. You have to cite the original article that the review paper was citing, and all that takes so much time. So for me, something like where an agent would just come and just tell me, hey, you should cite this thing, it's more objective than me. Maybe I'm trying to bias the citations I use. It would be more objective. So for me, something like that would be a huge plus. But yeah, if you guys do have ideas, then please like include them somewhere. And then, we can have a conversation with Dami to see which of these things could be implemented in a way that's like actually useful. So, okay, great. So the next one, Pat, maybe I might just pass it over to you for walking through the demo because I think this is probably the most exciting thing. And then we can touch on governance afterwards if we have some time. And then Pat, I think you might be muted too if you're trying to
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so I'll screen share here, and then I think that most folks here have seen the app so far, so let me know if you guys want me to go in any specific directions. So just for context here, the guy's been working on like a new version of ResearchHub. Basically, the first version that we built, has been put together over the course of a couple of years. And with the release of new AI coding tools, like some design decisions make it easier to actually work with these tools. So we're basically rewriting the whole web app in order to make it like very easy to build new stuff in the future. And Kobe's been doing this now for just about 2 months, and we're starting to get to a place where things are coming together. I think the goal is to have the full thing released by like the middle of March, end of March. So yeah, we're making good progress there. I can just go through some of the screens. So this is a home screen. It's going to be a little bit more like a social feed than like the Reddit style feed that we currently have on ResearchHub. You'll be able to like follow specific journals, specific users, also have like a recommended algorithm based on like the content that you interact with. We're going to have like the ability to submit new research. So kind of similar to how ResearchHub currently works, except we'll have everything automatically uploaded already. So rather than having to like upload any preprint, if it's already been published elsewhere, all you need to do is put in the DOI and we'll be able to pull it. Or if you want to like draft new content on ResearchHub, you can do that as well. Tyler's been working on a notebook, so we'll be leveling up the ELN too for this new app. In addition, we have the ability to fund research. So this is like the full version of the funding feature. And then this is, I believe we're going to take this form into the notebook as well. So this is kind of like outdated by a week or so. But yeah, basically you can share a pre-registration, like add co-authors, add a budget for how much money you need, and then also add an NFT in order to thank the folks who fund your research. So yeah, we're excited about that. Hopefully some cool things will come out of it from the funder side. So yeah, this is like a little bit out of date because this isn't looking perfect. But basically, there's going to be like a page where you'll be able to see all the projects that are seeking funding, and you can click into them and actually fund them. So sorry, this page is broken. I think it's updated for the new version. But yeah, if you give a certain amount of money, you'll be able to receive an NFT in return. Let me see. I'm not sure if all of these are working. We'll also have like the research coin page that we currently have where you'll be able to see bounty opportunities under earn, a specific page for the ResearchHub journal. And then, as I mentioned, Tyler's got a new lab notebook that we're also going to ship. So yeah, this is like the overall place, and this isn't even where we're at today. I think this is maybe like a week and a half into the past-ish. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, happy to walk through it. And then I think everybody here should have this Vercel link too, so I'll add it into the chat too, if anybody wants to play around with it themselves. Yeah, any thoughts or questions, anybody?
Yeah, Pat, I think we've got a couple people who are not part of like the editor team, and then also people with the recording will be able to view this. I think it's really cool. One thing I think maybe you can also show off too is like the actual research coin page that's like on the from the top right when you click on the little logo here. Yeah, and then it has like some different like view and like a deposit withdraw and things like that.
Yeah, and Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we should have the ability to like buy research coin here too with the version that will actually ship. And then also some information here on the right side for folks who are unfamiliar with research coin.
Let me get Tyler up here. Yeah, go for it, Tyler.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, so Levy at the foundation actually already kind of built that buy feature. So we should be able to implement that pretty easily. Just throw it as a new button right next to withdrawal.
Yeah, perfect. And it'll pull up like a fund like kind of card. It allows you to like fund your wallet with like USDC or ETH, and then a swap modal within that as well too that allows you to like swap it into research coin for you to like use it. And we'll be able to use Paymaster so there's no like fees along the way as well too. And I know a big one too, Pat. This one's small, but the notifications right now there's like no notifications tab. But in the new app, there'll be like a whole separate like notifications section where you'll be able to like see all of the different things that you've been like notified of versus like only the most recent 10, which I know can get very limiting. I just sent out the link. So Pat, you had sent the link, but only to hosts and panelists. So I just sent it out to everyone so they can kind of dabble with it. I know there's like a release notes section too that Kobe added. So you can kind of see what's on the horizon and like what's being developed like week over week. So yeah, just a couple things to note on the new web app. Okay. Anything else, Pat, you want to share regarding this, or maybe even Tyler, while we have you up here? I know you're working pretty closely on the lab notebook, particularly. Not sure if anything's in like good enough shape where you want to show it off, but yeah, anything else you guys want to show?
I don't know if it's in good enough shape to show. I think something's wrong with our preview link. We'll probably fix that like today. But a couple things to mention. So on the research coin transactions page that we were on, that's going to change a little bit just to be like improved UI. Right now, you see it's like pretty generic with distribution and that little icon for upvote. Small things, but you'll be able to navigate eventually to when you like have a transaction item, say somebody tipped you. In the line item, you'll have a link to like the profile of the person or the work that you were tipped on, just to make it a little easier to track like where you've contributed, what you've earned stuff on, and say you've got a peer review, it'll be easier to kind of get there. Then in the export button, we actually like made this specifically for TurboTax. So you should be able to take that list of transactions for every year. It'll automatically export all of them. You might have to parse it slightly to filter out the year that you want in the CSV. But after you do that, you can put it directly into TurboTax, and it should have all the correct formatting for them to like get your crypto information from us. But if you run into issues, let me know. Then for the lab notebook, we're going to take, so right now on the top left, you have a plus new button. And this might be broken just depending on which version it is. But if you click the fund your research, instead of going to a form, we're going to take you to the notebook, where the idea here is like people spend a lot of time writing this whole pre-registration. So we're going to make it a more native experience in the lab notebook where you can write it collaboratively with your other authors and then set the amount and then all the funding information like the NFTs in a really nice sidebar in the notebook. So small thing, but it should just make it more comprehensive for someone to hang on the platform for a couple minutes longer or maybe even multiple days. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm really excited to see the lab notebook kind of come to and like be able to flourish because I think it's one of the dark horses of the application. I know for the plus new section too, one thing that's like I've heard a few people give feedback on, Pat, if you can head to the plus new and then do the create a bounty. I hear a lot of people asking about the bounty length. Right now, it's like defaulted to 14 days in the current web app and it's not customizable. So depending on like the scope of what you're requesting for someone, you can actually like customize the bounty length now, which I think is really big because sometimes someone will request like someone to help write a systematic review and that doesn't take 14 days, that takes longer. So that's a really, really big one. And one thing we hear a lot too, Pat, is actually this target audience is like a pretty call it quote unquote like a premium feature where it just seems like a lot of people really want to come to ResearchHub to be able to target the right group of people. We've had some people come up to us that want more epidemiology, wellness type of like, research, psychology, sociology. And then we have some people coming in that want just maybe neuroscience and inflammation, maybe like Nicole Shanahan. So this could almost be like a premium styled feature where, yeah, we have this everyone's skill set on the platform, but you got to pay like the premium subscription to be able to target them.
Yeah, so this is an interesting point actually, because during our last product review with Brian, we got feedback from him saying that this form is too long and that there's some stuff that we should try and automate for folks. So, like, he basically suggested removing the bounty length and the target audience, or potentially hiding it under like an optional section. I don't know if you remember, Tyler, exactly what the suggestion was. But yeah, curious what folks here think about that. Like I know we're kind of in the weeds sometimes and we see all different use cases. So like the bounty length makes a lot of sense to me personally. And I like the target audience as well, because I think it like shows off that we're doing some like, like Web 2.0 style marketing for you. But yeah, curious, does everybody here think that like the bounty length would be good to have, or would you guys be okay with it being held under or like, hidden behind like advanced like drop down or something? Tyler, do you remember exactly what we landed on during the call?
I think you just nailed it. I think it was the advanced where it's like it's not immediately there, but if you need to find it, you can easily go get it. And for what it's worth, too, that's like my personal preference. I think 90% of people are probably not going to need to see it front facing, but if they want to find it, they'll probably click the advanced and, make it custom.
Pretty sure that's kind of how it works when you do like the Web 2 style advertising on like Facebook or Instagram or whatever too. There's like a very easy screen, and then it's like if you want to optimize it, you can do that.
I think the advanced makes sense as long as it's still like something people are able to kind of mess with, but they just have to like click away from it. Just I think that's totally fine as well too. Maybe just somewhere before the advanced saying something like if you don't click anything, you're going to be defaulted to like a month or you're going to be defaulted to 14 days, just so people know what they're getting into before they click out of it. And then in the chat, we have people so Shashikant said, I think bounty length and target audience is a great feature. Arsh said, I think it should be accessible, but drop down would work. And then Malik said, I vote to keep bounty length and target audience as well, but can keep it in advance too. So it seems like that's like the best trade-off is have an advanced drop down, but keep these as accessible things.
Yeah, it sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Okay, guys, anything else web app related? Even people in the audience, if you guys want to like ask about anything related to this. Otherwise, we can maybe take a few minutes just to go like dig into some governance related stuff. Oh, actually, no, we've got one person account. We'll pull you up here. You want to go for it?
Hello,
Yep, we can hear you.
can everyone hear me? All right, hey, nice to meet everyone. But yeah, I think the new web app is pretty great. I talked to Tyler before about some of the improvements that could be done with the lab notebook, and it seemed like some of them were implemented. But I think like going back, some of the conversations about the AI agents, you're talking about like an AI agent finding citations for you, stuff like that. I think it would be also nice to have like a feature where an agent can give you like a synopsis of a paper, or like finding gaps within that paper that could be worth looking into. Yeah, but I think overall it seems like things are picking up and coming together. I also like that bounty length because I felt like when I had that grant for 14 days, we're kind of in a time crunch, which is also great because sometimes you work better under pressure. But yeah, I think having that, extending the length like can help with like, just having things get done in a certain amount of time. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I have a project I want to start posting about, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know the lab notebook is like for a lot of like the hardcore scientists, like one of the more exciting things, And so I think there's a lot of stuff we could do with that AI agent, which is like, yeah, maybe like a summary or like slash synopsis, and then it like goes in and like digs through the document and does that. I think could be really cool. Tyler, I know you were working on like actually some like embedded lab notebook AI things. Was that something that was already on your radar?
Yeah, I mean, you guys nailed it. But so since we're using this new tip tap editor, it's like really, really flexible. You can make any custom slash command that you want. So Kobe messed around with a couple of easy ones like a slash AI summary or slash AI where you can call, any GPT or Claude or any kind of AI. But obviously, if you can build any slash command, then you can also build like any functionality. So if we wanted, for example, if there was someone at the foundation who wanted to MVP it, or we wanted to spend time at the ink, we could definitely have an agent built in that could go through your document. It could like review the whole entire body of literature, grab the publications that are relevant, put them into a document for you, or even review your current paragraph or highlight or the entire document in the context of like a certain amount of literature. So yeah, 100% super possible with the TipTap editor.
Beautiful. Amazing. Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you, Shashank, for your suggestion because I know you're one of like the kind of primary users of some of these tools. So always good to hear like I think particularly like people like your suggestions for this. And then I see a question that you added here. So is yes or only for math-based papers? No, it's not. I think they started off particularly with math and they go through archive papers. So it's particularly like focused on non-biomedical, but they're going to be working with us. So we're going to pull in, they're going to, if they move into the biomedical side of things, that we'll have like some validators for them, as well as even for math and physics and things, we'll have some validators on our platform that can kind of help them confirm some of the findings from their agents. Okay, cool. So one last thing that I would like to do here, and then sorry, can you guys see my screen? This should be the RIP 21. You guys see the governance page?
Not yet. I actually still see the Web V2 link. I think maybe Pat's side.
Let me see here. Let's go to try this. How about now?
Looks good.
Okay, amazing. So I wanted to just take like a few minutes here because, one big question we get all the time is, why have a token? And there's like a couple layers here. So one layer is, there's a distinction between using like a fiat currency versus like a US, USDC, for example. So just having like a kind of USDC versus USD, so using crypto, you can kind of distribute, payments globally at really low costs. So you can kind of get value kind of sent to people in other countries, for almost free of charge. And it allows for kind of just more accessibility for people. And so that's why, crypto over fiat. And then the question becomes, okay, so now that that crypto is kind of a more seamless kind of experience and cost effective, then why research coin versus USDC? So research coin again is the native asset for our platform. And USDC, you can transact it and it's low cost. Research coin, you can transact it with low costs. But one thing that you get uniquely is when you're holding a token that's native to your platform, the distribution of that token goes to the users of the platform. So the holders of that then have kind of like should have a say in some of the direction and governance rights of that platform. And that's something that you could do unique where if anyone owns USDC, we don't want just anybody to be able to help govern the platform. We actually want the people who have like kind of conviction and who have like used the platform immensely, who have earned the research coin to also be the ones governing it. So it helps kind of filter down the right types of people you want to govern. And one of these things, and what we use is a platform that you see here called Snapshot. And you go and we'll have different proposals. So this one is RIP 21, and this will be for the 2025 platform distribution breakdown. So every year, 4% of the total supply gets distributed through the ResearchHub platform. And this is a vote to say, how do you earmark those? And, one strength is we'll have the scientific community on ResearchHub, and hopefully that's a growing bucket of people, be able to help govern and vote on how they want to earmark these funds. And the intention here is over time, like rather than everyone optimizing to just do one thing as it is now, so like everyone's optimizing for getting a bunch of citations, we can have the scientific community actually make that a moving target where once people try to game to something and it becomes a poor target, that can start shifting. And that's really one of the strengths of the governance side of things of Research Coin. So I just want to walk through really briefly how you would do this. Unfortunately, any research coin you have on the platform is not eligible for this vote. It would have to be something that's in your Ethereum wallet. So you would go to the ResearchHub page on Snapshot and just go to login. And once you click login, you'd connect one of your wallets. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing the pop-up screen, but you would connect a wallet. And once your wallet's connected, what it'll do is it'll essentially have like a read only where it'll detect how much research coin you have in that wallet. This is research coin either on the base network and the Ethereum network. So if you had say 50 RSC on base, 50 RSC on Ethereum mainnet, it would kind of give your vote 100 RSC total. And then you can go in and vote on, are you for, against, or abstain from the proposal? So you'd read the proposal and say, great, I have 68 RSC worth of voting power because I own 68 RSC here. And then you can vote for whichever one you want and then share whatever reason if you wanted to include it and then confirm and then sign that with your wallet. So I just wanted to walk through that because I think governance a lot of times is a very underappreciated kind of component of some of these Web3 companies, but I actually think in the long run, this is one of the strongest things that come along with like having a project like ours use a crypto asset for a lot of kind of the funding and the governance. So yeah, I hope that, even for like watchers, like people who are watching the video, this helps give some clear kind of information on why it's important to do governance. And it's really easy. It takes like a minute or so. So it's not much of your day either. So I'll chat with our marketing team too, just to see if we can crop out a little bit of like a short video for something like that. Okay. Any questions on like the governance side of things? This will evolve. A lot of like research teams are like working on different kind of governance structures on how to best, go for like two-party systems or like, like a veto group or a council. So I think this is like an ever evolving thing. Okay, so yeah, that wraps everything up for the call. Next call, we're probably going to give it a shot on Twitter Spaces or X Spaces. So just be on the lookout for that. So we'll probably give it a shot for the next call, see how that goes, see what the engagement's like, and then kind of either shift all the way over to X Spaces or kind of move it back if needed. So just an FYI there. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's it for the call. So yeah, it was real pleasure. We'll get this video up hopefully pretty soon. And then yeah, we'll see you guys in a couple weeks then for the next one.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you all. Thanks, guys.